Hello and welcome to Tartan Touchdown, Scotland's voice in conversation with the world of American football. And welcome to the first ever episode of Tartan Touchdown in Conversation With. In Conversation With is our way of sharing the stories of people from all over the world and the sport of American football that we all love and enjoy. Now, being a Scottish podcast, we had to start with a local boy for our first ever story. From Nigeria to the NFL via Glasgow, Canada and Ohio, it's Scotland's own Praise Olatoke. Praise, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Dan? Great. Happy to be here. Can't wait to just have a chat.
Perfect. Gav, Praise's progress is something me and you have been following since he got into the IPP, the International Player Pathway in 2024. It's good to finally sit down and be able to have this chat with him, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been following the sport in Scotland for a long time, whether it's flag, kitted, obviously with the Scottish Claymores here for 10 years, but actually seeing local talent now actually making progress, finding their way into the big leagues. That's exactly what I want to see happening.
Excellent. At Tartan Touchdown, our chats with guests are all about finding out their full journey. So I'd like to take you back to the beginning, find the roots of the sporting lives and the journey that have taken them to the present day. So with that in mind, Praise, you were born in Lagos, Nigeria, and now I'm going to make myself feel very old here by saying you were born in June 2000. 1985 child, that makes me feel very, very old. But as a young boy growing up in Nigeria, do you have any memories of being in Nigeria at all?
Yeah, I do. I remember just like running around in the streets, I remember the hot sun. I remember all like monsoon type rain. I remember just running up and down the streets, racing kids. And just being outside was really what I remember the most. Just being outside and just being a kid.
Yeah. So obviously taking up running from a very early age. Then. When you were in Nigeria, did you play any kind of sports at all? Obviously, you like running about. Did you have a chance to play any kind of sports in Nigeria before you?
I remember just like kicking a ball about. So like football, the other football. Just kicking the ball about, swimming a little bit. That was really the extent of it. I didn't really start organized sport until I was in Scotland.
Yeah, perfect. So as you mentioned there, you came to Scotland. So you moved to Scotland when you were 5. Do you remember any kind of any memories of the build up to coming to Scotland? Kind of what your parents telling you come to Scotland and kind of the process and how it all worked? Do you remember much about
that? So I remember the day we left Nigeria and being in the airport. There were family around, people were crying. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I guess I was going somewhere. And I remember being on the plane. It was a Virgin Atlantic plane. I remember that so vividly. And I thought that was the sickest thing ever. It was a big plane. But yeah, it was that's pretty much it. And then I remember landing and seeing my dad. I remember my dad because he'd come to Nigeria to visit.
Yeah.
But I remember landing, seeing my dad, and it being a bit cold. Even though it was June, but I still remember it was a little bit cold, and I got used to it eventually. But yeah.
So you mentioned you met your dad at the airport. So was your dad already in Scotland, or when did he come in advance to you guys, or was he living in Scotland and you guys moved over to be with him?
Yeah. So when I was around 3, he moved to England, Hertfordshire, to do a master's degree. So that's how he got to the UK. And then once he graduated, 2005, he went up to Scotland to start working and studying some more. And then that's when my mom and I flew there and we met him there. We first moved to, I remember so vividly actually, it was a little flat in Kinning Park, right next to Kinning Park Primary School. It was a little downstairs flat. I can't remember the number, but I walk in and to my left, there was matching blinds and the duvet covers, and it was all a bunch of football strips. And that was one of the first things I remember after landing in Glasgow, was moving into Kinning Park and seeing that there. And I thought that was the craziest thing ever. I got my own room. I got matching duvets and stuff. And yeah, it was sick.
Perfect. That sounds a very nice arrival into the country. And so, apart from your dad, did you have any other family in Scotland, or was it just your dad?
It was just my dad. So When we moved there, it was just my parents and myself, and that was really it.
Yeah, perfect. So coming to a new country, obviously your dad had been in the UK for a couple of years studying and then working, but how did that help you settle in the country? Did you make kind of friends very quickly, or kind of, so in Scotland there is a fairly big Nigerian community in Scotland? Was that kind of part of helping you settle and stuff like that?
So there are not that many Nigerians in Scotland. I do remember though. So we spent maybe 6 months in King Park before moving to Cardona. One of the first days that we were in Cardona, I remember looking out the window and there were kids playing outside. And my mom saw me look at the kids play outside and said, "Put your shoes on, we're going outside." And she walked up to these kids with her thick Nigerian accent and said, "Hey, this is my son Praise. Can you guys play with Praise?" And really, that's where everything really switched on and began for me. To the one of the guys that I met when I was outside, like those outside playing. When I was back home this year, I visited him just to catch up, and it's been like 15 years, 16 years, whatever. So yeah, he became one of my great childhood friends, and yeah, that's the community I started building with the kids outside playing. I don't know if kids do that anymore, but it was that core of like 4 or 5 kids
Yeah,
outside that became my community.
brilliant, excellent. So through childhood, can you remember when you kind of first got into sport in Scotland? Obviously, you mentioned like kicking the ball about and that. Now, when you came to Scotland, can you remember when you first started playing actual kind of like a structured sport?
Um, so first like structured sport. So I played football. I played for Harmony Row. I don't know if you know the team. Sir Alex Ferguson is a
Yeah,
patron of our team,
I'll
but
tell you a funny story. My dad grew up in Harmony Road, played for Harmony Road.
our yeah, that's it. So yeah, I played for Harmony Row. Probably primary four to I don't know, primary seven or S1, something like
Yeah,
that. I played until 11 asides. I know I played 11s and then I stopped playing after my first year of 11s. Um, so yeah, that was my first ever like structured sport. Just playing football, and I was a right wing, so I had the pace. I just used to gun it down the wing, and yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
perfect.
think maybe just for myself, Praise, obviously, it's not surprising at all as a youngster growing up in Scotland. Football, soccer, absolutely the sport of choice. But is there any? I guess did you have any sort of sporting heroes growing up? I believe you're a Man United fan when you were a kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, well, when I was a Man U fan, my favorite player at the time was Nani. I thought, yeah, this must have been 2000 and like 7 or 8 to
Yeah,
2000 and like 12 when he left or whatever it was. But he was my favorite player, and I also loved Wayne Rooney. I thought he was
yeah,
so cold. I also love he didn't play for Man U, but Ibrahimovic. Did he play for Man? I don't think he
Yeah,
played for Man
yeah,
U,
he
but
did. Yeah,
he did for a little bit,
he
right?
just didn't
Yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
career yet.
Yeah, yeah. So Ibrahimovic, yeah, I thought he was so sick. Those three were probably my favorite
yeah.
players. And then I also love Thierry Henry.
Yeah,
He was always so much pace and so much swagger on the field. So yeah,
yeah, he still does, and he's not playing. He's still got that swagger.
I know, right?
Anytime you watch him on TV, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
So obviously you mentioned their football. So you obviously we had a wee quick chat before we came on there, and you talked about schools and moving to the schools in Kilmacombe. When did you start doing your running kind of more structured, and you joined obviously the running club in Kilmacombe? When did that kind of start? What age were you then?
So originally, I had went to the Glasgow School of Sport in Houston. I was there for 2 years, and I was running there. Well, I was more of a jumper, like long jump, short jump. Not very many people like even know this, but I was a jumper. And then left the school 2014. I went to St. Columbus in Kilmacombe, and there I started playing rugby. So that's what I did. Third year, fourth year, fifth year. I played rugby, and it was within those years that like I started to want to play football as well. So rugby sort of spurred that on a little bit. Um, so yeah, that's really it.
Yeah. So when you obviously you started getting into the track, then so what age were you when you kind of properly started focusing on running?
So after I stopped playing rugby, after fifth year or during my fifth year, I got back into running. And that's when I took it a bit more seriously because I knew that, okay, if I can run fast, then I can use that to go to the US, which was always my goal to move to the US, to run and have the opportunity to play football. So I took it more seriously probably my fifth year. No, honestly, sixth year because I didn't do sixth year. I left after fifth year. So when I should have been in sixth year is when I really took it seriously. When I was in college at the time, so I'd be training and then going to college, and yeah, that was sort of my life. But I didn't end up actually running because I got hurt. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll come on to that, don't worry.
Yeah, and I think, Chris, if I can maybe just ask, obviously you kind of mentioned running as being your way into football, which I guess identifies, I guess one of the challenges for a young athlete in the UK is that pathway into football coming from this side of the pond. Obviously, you eventually went on to the international player pathway. So I guess thinking back to that time, did you explore the possibilities for how you could get into football program?
so I thought about it a lot, and there was a few things that I knew they're available. So is it the East Kilbride
Yeah.
Pirates? Is
That's right.
that
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember being like young, like 14, 15, seeing the team and wanting to play for the team, but I just didn't commit to ever actually just going there.
Yep.
So and then I'd heard through the grapevine about the academy that was down in Loughborough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Again though I didn't know how I could get known or contact them. I was too young to sort of put that together in my mind.
Yeah, of course.
And I also knew that Loughborough had a team. So one of the unis I wanted to go to if I didn't end up leaving Scotland was Loughborough because they had a good like track
Yeah.
program and they had a
Yep.
football team. Um, but I always knew that you're not really gonna make it to the big leagues through like the Bucks, like football, whatever.
Yeah.
If you want to play football, you have to leave and be in the epicenter of football, which is the
Yeah,
US.
exactly.
Of course.
So talking about moving across,
Yeah.
so you then got offered a scholarship at Trinity Western University in Vancouver. That was about 2018. How did that come about?
Mhm.
Like, did they see you running? What was the kind of story behind getting the scholarship for Trinity?
So that came through my coach in Glasgow. Um, I'd been working with him for like 2 years at this point, and his son was the coach or one of the coaches at
Yeah.
Trinity. And just one day he said, like, do I want to go to Canada and run track? And I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds like an adventure. And I was in college at the time,
Yeah.
so I thought, wow. I thought vividly that being in Canada is a lot closer to the US than being in Scotland is. So by just sheer proximity, let me take this opportunity and go over there. So which is what I did. So now that's how I eventually got to Canada. It was through my coach's son who coached there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, Praise, if I can maybe just ask, I guess it's still a fairly young age. How did that feel making that move on your own, going from Scotland to Canada?
It it wasn't a tough decision, but it was definitely a tough move. Because this was the first time I would be living by myself. I'd moved to a country where I didn't know anyone. I didn't even know my coach's son. I'd never met him before. Spoke to him on the phone once before. So it was a tough, tough move. I remember maybe the week before I left. So I had my flights booked and everything, and I went to go see a friend who was moving to the US. So I was going to Canada, he was going to the US. So we grew up together. I remember I drove to his place, so it said bye, blah blah blah. I jumped in the car to drive back, and I just broke down in tears because the emotion of it all just hit me. Like, yeah, I'm leaving Scotland. I'm leaving what I know, who I know, and starting a new adventure. And I don't know where it's gonna take me, but it wasn't a tough decision, but it was a tough move, and it was the best move that I ever made.
I mean, you thought it was cold coming from Nigeria to Scotland. You must have got a bigger shock to Canada.
Yeah, that first winter was brutal. My goodness.
Yeah.
It was tough.
You think you've seen snow in Scotland until you go to Canada and you see real snow?
I know. Oh, that's like I went to where was it? I think I was in Saskatchewan for like a week or whatever, and it was probably like -30, -40 Celsius, and the snow was like 5-6 feet high. It's crazy. But yeah, it was wild.
Yeah. So obviously you got there. It was 2018. You got offered to go there. Looking back at your 2019 was a massive year for you. So it's great that you a quick couple of points of that year. So in 2019, you were called up to the GB under-20s squad to compete at the 2019 Euros. How did that feel to be kind of called up to represent the national team at a European Championship?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was I had felt like while I was in Scotland, I never got the accolades or the appreciation that I wanted. Like, I was doing well in Scotland. I either won or got a medal, the champs and this and that, but I just never hit the standard to get to teams and compete abroad for the UK, blah blah blah. So that being my first time ever competing for the UK, that was amazing. Yeah, it was great.
Excellent. And then you were also named. Well, I heard this story in another interview that you done, that you were then named Scotland's under-20 athlete of the year in 2019 as well. So that must have been a great moment for you. Obviously, you mentioned there, but not getting accolades when you're in Scotland, but to be recognised as the best under-20s athlete in Scotland that year must have been a proud moment for you.
Yeah, that was really special for me. And it was special for me, and especially for my parents and my mom. My mom I wasn't there at the time, so I couldn't pick up the award. So my mom was able to go to the award ceremony and pick up the award for me and say a couple words. So I didn't know I'd won actually until the next day, because of the time zone and all that stuff. So it was sick to find out I'd won that.
Yeah.
And yeah, my mum really enjoyed it, so I'm happy about that.
And one other thing, I think, well, this is still the correct information, not you can correct me or not, but am I right? You run your 200 metres PB that year as well at 20.95. Have you broken that since?
I did run faster after, but that mark was really like the stamp that, okay, praise is here. Yeah. Praise can do something. Yeah, it was like a pivotal moment for me, for sure.
I mean, I looked at it, and that's when you ran that, so you'd have been 18, 19 at the time. That was only 7:10 slower than Alan Wells' Scottish record, which has stood since 1980. I mean, so that is fast.
Yeah.
Well, while you're at Trinity, you then went on in January 2020 to break a couple of school records. You ran a 6:82 in the 60, and then in March you then broke your own record by running a 6:75. And on the same day, you broke the 200 record for the school as well, which was phenomenal. But I think I looked at it; those records still stand to this day. Did you know that? Nobody's broke those records.
Yeah. I'm still really close to the school, so they let me know if somebody is coming, but it's being there was probably one of the best times of my life, and if I wasn't there, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be the person I am today. So it's it was great.
So obviously, Gav mentioned earlier on, grow up kind of football inspirations you have, but as a young track athlete, who was your inspirations, or who did you kind of look as a role model on the track growing up?
Yeah, well, there's only one guy that really like was that guy. Now that's you saying, right? Every kid who ran quick, even if you weren't quick, Usain was the pinnacle of. He was a superstar. He transcended the sport. So it was definitely Usain Bolt. Yeah.
I thought that would be the answer, but I thought just in case it was like a bit of a curveball or something, I thought I'm going to ask you anyway. So our question we want to talk about is obviously you were over in Canada 2020 time before you then moved to the US, which we'll come to. But were you stuck in Canada during the COVID pandemic? Then were you kind of over there during that?
I was, I chose to stay. which was one of the best decisions I made. Because at the time, being a British citizen, like the government had to like fly you home. They couldn't deny you
Yeah.
from entering the UK. So, but I thought, well, I'm gonna be moving to the US anyways. Let me stay close. Let me see what happens. And yeah, I just ended up staying through the pandemic, and it was a great time for me, honestly. Like we woke up, it was me and my dorm. We'd wake up, we'd go work out, we'd go like explore a new part of the town, and just hang out all day for like 2 months. We did that. 3 months we did that. So
Yeah.
I had a good time.
So I think that sounds good that you were able to really keep at it and stick with your schedule. And I guess one of my questions would be, was the fact that you were in sprinting, which is I guess a relatively solo athlete sport. We've spoken to previously college basketball players who were in college during the pandemic, and whilst they were able to train together as a team, their training was so limited because of the protocols were in place at the time. So for you, did you find that you were able to kind of stick to your craft?
Yes, to a degree. During that time, I wasn't doing more, I wasn't doing like sprint focused stuff.
Okay.
I would just work out to work out. And
Yep.
I did it more so to enjoy my time and enjoy working out than work out with the purpose of getting stronger and faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So obviously, your performances in Canada and obviously caught the eyes of a certain big US college, which we'll come to in a minute. We'll not reveal who it is just yet, but just want to take you back a wee bit. Something you've touched on already yourself is you started getting into American football in your kind of mid-teens. What kind of got you into the sport? What you also mentioned rugby got you into, but what attracted you to American football at that age?
So there were two that I remember. There were two things that really made me want to play football. The first was my one of my close friends. His brother went to the U.S. for uni. So while I was at St. Columbus, my friend's brother played soccer at university in actually I think it was South Carolina, which I'm not far from
Yeah,
now. I'm like 20 minutes away from there. So that's kind of crazy. But he went there and then he came back one summer and told us stories about how he went to a football game and the crowd was crazy and like when there was a touchdown, everyone was going wild. So that was the first time I really thought, oh, I'd love to be the guy scoring touchdowns and everyone would be, praise. Selfishly enough. And then second thing was around that time, Vine was the app.
yeah,
Like Tik now we've got TikTok before it was Vine. And there were football like highlights and like Odell Beckham Jr. That one-handed catch was on
Yeah.
Vine. I remember seeing that and thought that was the sickest thing ever. So those two things uh, really got me thinking that like if I ever get the opportunity to play football, I have to do it because it looks like so much fun, which it is. But yeah, that's what got me interested in
yeah.
football.
That just as you mentioned that catch, I'm a Cowboys fan. Gav's a Giants fan, so he
Yeah.
loved that catch. That catch made me sick. But I'm pretty sure we still won that game, Gav. I'm pretty sure, did we not?
You did, but I had Beckham in fantasy that year, so I cleaned up with him.
Yeah, no, it was, to be fair, it was an unbelievable catch.
That was, that was I think that was like 10 years ago to last week or
Pretty
something.
much.
That cat,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, it was around 10 years ago last week.
yeah,
So
that's great.
yeah, came a long way.
Yeah. So following on from Trinity, so apart from the college that you got the offer for, which we'll come in a second, did you have any other offers for any other US colleges at all? To the one you did come?
I I had coaches saying that if I committed to them, they would offer me. Um, so technically, I did have a couple other offers. Minnesota was one. Um, University of Texas San Antonio, so UTSA. That was another school that was heavily recruiting me. And then I had a bunch of other schools that were interested, and I was speaking to their coaches. But how COVID like hit was one of the reasons why I ended up going to the school I went to.
Yeah.
because I'd visited the school just before COVID.
Right.
Then COVID hit, and then all visitations were cancelled. So I already knew the school, and it's a huge football
Yeah.
school. So that was another conscious, like, hey, this is a football school. By sheer proximity, I might get a chance to play football. So let me go to this school for
Yeah.
that, and hopefully I get to play
Yeah.
football.
So the school you went to, it was, and I have to say it this way because it's the only way you can say it, was the Ohio State.
Yeah, it's the Ohio State. Yeah.
So obviously you mentioned there, you kind of one of the reasons you chose to go there was because it is a big football school. Was there any other factors in your decision for choosing Ohio State?
That was one of the main reasons. And if I'm being completely candid, I saw a girl when I was on my visit. I saw a girl while I was on my visit, and I was like, "Yep, this is the place for me." And I'm with her now.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
like we've been together for 4 years, 3.5, 4 years now. So it all worked out that
Yep.
that was the school I went
Yeah,
to.
we've got Tartan Touchdown's first ever love story on our first ever episode.
I know it, and it's just as well it works out that way. It makes it much easier to tell that story that you're all together.
Exactly. Yeah.
So obviously Ohio State, as you mentioned, the massive football school. It's one of the biggest programs in the US. So you committed there. Obviously, it was mentioned it was for track and field rather than football at that point. In your first year, you tore your Achilles. That must have been an absolute horrible moment. You've built up your whole life to get to this point, and you tear your Achilles. Like, don't want you make you relive it,
Yeah.
but what was that like when that happened?
So, so I tore my Achilles at our conference championships. So one of the biggest competitions of the year. I tore in the final of the 200. I've come around the bend, and my Achilles just snapped. There's nothing you can do at that point. Once it's gone, it's gone. And I tried to finish the race, so I was hopping along the bend trying to finish, and my coach was like, "Get down, get down." And I was like, "No," and I kept on hopping. He's like, "Bro, get down." So I ended up like veering off. But before I tore my Achilles, I'd had pain in my Achilles for like a month or so. So I knew there was a possibility, but I'm stubborn, and I wanted to win. I wanted the points, so I just kept on racing.
Yeah.
And
So
but in hindsight, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
yeah.
Because if I hadn't have torn my Achilles, then I'd still be running, probably, and I wouldn't have transitioned to football. So it was bittersweet, but pretty sweet
Yeah,
to
obviously,
end. Yeah.
you said yourself, the impact it had long term was a positive one. But at the time, like, how did you cope with that kind of mentally and emotionally? Because you've got suddenly you're at Ohio State, it's where you want to be, and suddenly you've got this injury. So
Yeah.
when it first happened, and before obviously then you transitioned, but how did you deal with that mentally and emotionally?
Um, honestly, I didn't. I don't think I took it as hard as folk like would have expected. Um, yes, it sucked, but I think I was just blessed. I had so many good people around me that I didn't really think about how bad it was or how it's gonna affect me. I just thought, well, I guess I'm missing this next Olympics. I'll just work for the next one. That was probably the to the extent that I really dwelled on
Yeah,
injury. And so I had really good people around me. Like my girlfriend was there, the coaching staff, her parents. I had a really good core of people to help me get through it. So it's yeah, it's pretty like anticlimactic because
but I mean,
I wasn't
yeah,
I wasn't too upset. I'm sure I was disappointed, but I wasn't like, no, my world didn't end,
yeah. No, that's good
which
to
was
hear.
good.
That's why I kind of wanted to ask that question, is like, because obviously you said people, it would have been absolutely devastating for people. It's just about how you react to it. It's obviously that laid
Yeah.
back Scottish mentality. You've got, you're like, oh, well, good God with it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It was
I
just too
think
fun.
no, Praise. All I was going to say is that I think, from my perspective, it's amazing to hear. You know, you showed so much resilience with all these challenges that you face. I mean, what do you put that down to? Just being able to, I guess, to see the positive in any challenge that comes your way.
Um, I think just maybe it's my temperament. That I don't take things too seriously. Um, my parents have sort of instilled that in me that just like life happens, life is hard. Life is so hard. So if things could always be worse, even though I tore my Achilles, I could be terminally ill or I could lose something that like
Yeah,
life is hard, life is short, but you just have to see the good in things and keep on going. So
that's it. It's a
yeah.
great mentality to have. So obviously then you're injuring
Absolutely.
you through your rehab and all that. And that type of injuries, it can be a tough one to come back from. It can be one that people don't come back from, but you come back in 2022, and what a year you had in 2022. First team all
Yeah.
Big Ten honours, you ran a 10:27 the 100 metres, and then you won the 4x100 Big Ten title in the relay.
Hmm.
That, I mean, to have that injury and come back a year later and have that year, you must have thought, I can still do this.
Yeah, it's I want to have like a good analogy, but some people I've heard this. Whilst how do I put this? Some people have the best careers or best time in their career is also some of the worst times in their
Yeah,
career. And I feel like, and now this is now me just reflecting back, that yes, I ran well, I did well to sort and got these accolades, but I wasn't enjoying it at all. Um, I was good, but I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wasn't being a track athlete was never who I wanted to be, you know?
yeah,
So that I it was a good year for sure, but after that year, I could have kept on running. I could have went to transferred to another school and all that, but I hung up my spikes after that year, and
yeah.
yeah, didn't look back.
So do you think it was the when you're out the time you're out your injuries that kind of what made you kind of think about it and reflect about what you wanted to do and make that decision that track wasn't what you wanted to do anymore?
Uh, probably, probably, yeah. I'd always known I was good at it, but I didn't think that's long term. I didn't think that that was who I wanted to be. It was sort of like a means to an end,
Yeah,
not the end to the means or
yeah,
whatever they're saying. Yeah.
yeah. So obviously,
Maybe, Praise, if I
go
can just come in that as well, is you'd obviously mentioned you'd such a great support network around you. So when it came to that decision, was that something you kind of realised on your own, or did you have your coaches, your family, girlfriend's family, were you kind of getting, I suppose, sort of consulting with them throughout that?
Yeah, I definitely consulted with my girlfriend's dad. He and I are really close. So I told I told him that I don't think I want to do this. That I don't think I want to run. I just yeah, it's cool, but I don't think it's for me. I'm not enjoying it as much as I used to. And that was also the year I told him he played in the league. I told him that I want to play football. I don't want to. I don't want to run anymore. I want to play football. So he basically just said like, follow your heart, do what you want to do, and everything happens for a reason. Or it will work out for you. And yeah, that's the has so far.
yeah. So obviously that you did that year in 22 when you kind of hung up your spikes, like you say. Had you started exploring playing football at Ohio State prior to that, or was it only when you finished on the track that you kind of started to explore playing football at Ohio State?
So all throughout that time, I had been emailing and trying to get in contact with the football team. Um, Sometimes I would lift in the football team's weight room with the track team, and when I saw like a football coach, or I'd speak to him, hey, yo, how can I play football? Blah blah blah. What can I do? What can I do? And one of the strength coaches told me that yeah, we usually have like a tryout um, for students. So that was my mind. Okay, try get to tryout, try get to tryout, and I kept on emailing, and that year they just so happened to not hold any tryouts. I'm like, ah, crap. It is what it is, but just proximity is power. Just being around the team, I just tried to infiltrate it anywhere I could, and to no avail, or whatever, to no success.
So when I say that Ohio State, they had like a club team, you started playing for them, didn't you? So
Yeah.
people that might not be watching this might not be aware. What is the difference in US college between like, the club team and the varsity team? What is the difference between both of them?
So fundamentally, there's not too much of a difference in the sport. Uh, Obviously, there's a difference in funding. The club team is all self-funded, so we have to pay to play. But the rules are pretty much the same. Yeah, I mean, it's just football, but with not D1 athletes, but regular people who still want to play football.
So I think, if I've got my numbers right, I think you had 7 catches for 231 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's a not bad introduction to a new sport, is it?
Yeah, it's not bad at all. It's not bad at all.
I mean, I think like you hung around with the football team, kind of in the weight room and stuff, and tried to integrate yourself. And that whole time you were at Ohio State, they had some quality players, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They had a lot, especially receivers as well.
Yeah.
They were cooking with receivers.
Yeah, Marvin Harris would have been there. Just think he was just coming in as you were kind of getting older. He's just there as well. I take it. Like you said, that's one of the reasons why they have that reputation for producing big players. So go back to college. So December 2022, you graduated your degree in sports business. You then had the chance to potentially stay on and try out for the varsity team. But you decided that was something you no longer wanted to do. Was there what was the thinking behind that decision?
Primarily, I just don't want to pay for school. Like, uni in the US is so expensive, and it didn't seem worth the investment to re-enroll back in school, spend 30-40 grand just for the opportunity to possibly be on the team, not even to play. So the opportunity cost is way too high. Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Can I maybe ask then, Praise? So, I mean, obviously, because I think you were asked to try out by the folks at Ohio State, but was that just purely as a walk-on, not as a sort of like a scholarship for a postgrad?
Yeah, that would be as a walk-on, and I could earn a scholarship by the time the season and semester starts. But that's a huge gamble.
Right.
So I didn't want to take the risk, and just like that was I didn't want to take the risk, and and I know that like things will end up working out how they should work out. So I had peace with that, and I kept pushing.
We fast forward a wee bit. So 13 months later, January 2024, for us, obviously we'll go back to the process we'll start before that with you. We see you announced as part of the NFL International Player Pathway class of 2024. That's obviously the process for that started way before we find out about that. So from December 2022, when you graduated from Ohio State, to the official announcement of this is the class of 2024, what that kind of 13 months, what did the process look like? So what was your kind of decision making to go into the process? How did the process work? And kind of what was involved once you were accepted into the program?
Yeah, so I'd known about the pathway program for a couple of years now. I actually watched the series, the docu-series that they made when I was like 16 or 17. I'd watched it and I always thought, oh, that's sick. And then after I tore my Achilles, while I was rehabbing, I remember seeing on Instagram that they just held another tryout. And I remember my athletic trainer, the guy who helped me come back. I remember showing him and I said, next year I'm going to be on this. I don't know how, but next year I will be at this tryout. And I just happened to do that. So what I'd done was found the NFL Academy's email on their website. I emailed them and said, hey, Scottish guy, I want to play football. How can I be part of the academy? And they said, well, it's too late for you to be part of the academy, but I'm going to relay this message on to the guy who runs the International Pathway Program, a guy called James Cook. So they relayed on my email to him. And at the same time, I I had DM'd every British football player in the league. I DM'd every European football player actually who's currently in the league. I DM'd them on Instagram, and maybe 2 of them responded to me. One of them said, I worked with this coach in Germany. He helped me, blah blah blah. So I DM that coach, and the coach says, "All right, cool. I like that you're passionate. So I'm gonna start sending you workouts every week. Just start doing these workouts, and I'll try put your name. I'll try connect you with the guys who run the program." So these 2 things ended up like diverging together because the NFL IPP guys, they knew of this coach, and the coach knew of this guy. So eventually the paths sort of crossed, and they were both talking about me like this way. I don't know if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
So I start working out with the guy, and somebody from the International Pathway program reaches out to me and says, "Hey, just keep on working out. Send us videos of you working out. Send us videos of you doing drills. Send us videos of you catching a football. And hopefully, in maybe like 7-8 months, we'll reach back out and offer you a tryout." So that's what I did from January till August, which is what, 8 months?
Yeah.
I didn't really hear much from anyone, but I worked out. I'd send them videos maybe once every 2-3 months, and that was that until one day I got a WhatsApp message saying, "Hey, you're gonna come to a tryout. Like, are you free?" I think he said like, "Are you free like next week or something like that? Are you free to fly to Loughborough?" Because I was still in the US at the time. "Are you free to come to Loughborough for a tryout?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." So that's how I initially got that tryout.
So a flight from Ohio to Loughborough is a bit cheaper than 40 grand for a transfer tryout.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then, obviously, you went through the tryout, and then you were accepted into the program. So when you got how did they kind of tell you? Did they sit you down and do a kind of chat with you, or was it kind of done offline? How did they tell you that you had been accepted into the program?
So after the tryout, they pretty much went dark on me for like 6. I think it was like 6 weeks. I didn't hear a thing from anyone, and I was starting to think, "Oh, this is it. I'm not gonna hear back. I'm not gonna hear back." And then one day, I get a text saying, "Are you free? We've came to a decision. Are you free for a Zoom call on this day?" So jumped in a Zoom call. We spoke about the tryout, and yeah, just let me know that I was accepted in the program. And like 8 weeks, in 8 weeks, I'll be in Florida doing the IPP.
Superb. Once the program then started, what kind of did your week look like within the program? Then what sort of things did you do to kind of try and prove yourself? In fact,
Yeah. So they structured they tried to structure the program around of what like an NFL training camp is like. So in the mornings we'd have meetings. So we'd have like a group or team meeting, then we'd have an individual meeting, and then we'd be on the field. We'd practice for like 2 hours. After practice, we'd lift, and then after lift, we'd have more meetings. And in the meetings, we'd go over like basically teach, like break us down and teach us football fundamentally. So this is what formation looks like. These are different route concepts. This is what defense looks like. This is, if a defense does this, then you're going to try to do this, that type of thing. So try to break down the game into like little chunks. And that's what we did for 10 weeks. So we would have meetings, train, lift, meetings. And we did that 5 or 6 days a week for 8 weeks. And then at the end of that, we did a pro day.
Yeah, excellent.
And Praise, if I can maybe just ask, what was it like being part of that cohort? Because you I guess you're in amongst a group of other, I guess, like-minded athletes who are absolutely passionate. Their dream is to play in the NFL, but not necessarily from that pro football background. I mean, obviously, Louis Rees-Zammit will be probably the most prolific example of that, but also There's Harry Malander played in rugby. There's a trio of Gaelic football players that were in that group. So I guess what was that like having that? I guess that mixture of backgrounds.
It was great. It was fantastic. I think not only in terms of their ability, but their personality. There was a really good mix of guys. Everyone got along, so it was great. And they were pro athletes, so they knew like how to work. They knew the grind. They knew that okay, you have to do this to get this type of results. They're also guys who weren't really athletes. They were just naturally gifted. So they were helped by seeing pro athletes do their thing, and it was a really good group of
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Excellent. So that takes you kind of the 8 weeks. January was when it was announced, 8 weeks training camp, was in the pro day. So we've all seen your 40 time. It's ridiculously fast. I think it was like if I looked at the NFL Combine times for this year, I think you'd have been the joint 8th quickest person at the NFL Combine this year.
Yeah.
Your 40 time, that is just, I think it was 4th for wide receivers, which is faster than one of your current teammates. I don't know if you know that, but we'll come back.
Yeah. So with that though, this is gonna I don't know how I should have ran faster, and I know I could have ran faster, which irks me to this day. Because I ran quick and it was good and all, but I know for a fact if I'd ran one more time, I would have been like a low 4.3s, maybe even cracked 4.2. Because I was starting to fire on all cylinders after the first one. So, but anyways, that's just my personal gripe with that.
That just shows your competitiveness.
Cool.
That shows that.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward a wee bit, we get to June 2024. NFL comes calling in the shape of the LA Chargers. Were the Chargers the first team to kind of show us sort of any interest in you, or did you have some options before you went to the Chargers?
Options, definitely not. I wasn't blessed with options, which is okay. But I first went to the Eagles for their rookie minicamp. During the camp, they told me that they were going to sign another international kid. So I knew immediately that I wasn't going to stay there. But it was a good experience for sure. And before that, another team had called after the pro day. Another team called to say, "Yeah, we're interested in signing Praise. We're going to fly him out, blah blah blah." But they basically went quiet on me, and then I was told just before that they're actually going to sign another international guy. So at that point, I felt like the rug had been pulled under my feet, and that was twice now. But it is what it is. But then the Chargers called just out of the blues, random, like Thursday, and they said, "Are you going to be free in like 2 days to come to LA?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing anything, so sure, let's do it."
Yeah. So obviously, we've not to say made it to the NFL, but you've got the closest you've been to being in the NFL, getting to the Chargers signing for the practice squad. How did that feel for you?
It was great. It was a great feeling to know that for that time I was wanted. They wanted to take a chance on me, see if I could be useful for their organization. So it was a really good feeling to just be not settled, but be in one place for a little bit of time. Yeah.
And Praise, if I can maybe ask, and there's maybe a bit of a theme here between the Chargers and your current team, the Panthers, but the Chargers are very much a franchise that's in the rebuild. Obviously, Coach Harbaugh's come in, and you can see, I think, 7-3 record, really trending in the right direction. Could you feel, I guess, that sense of momentum during your time at the Chargers?
Yeah. The fact that Coach Harbaugh had just won the national championship with Michigan, so immediately he had the respect of everyone in the building. Everyone revered him. Everyone loved Coach Harbaugh. So, and he was a really good, really nice guy. So you could see that hey, the Chargers are up to something. They practice really hard. It was like a military operation when I was there. Everything was structured, and it was a good time. Didn't end up how I wanted, but I think it was definitely a good time, and I ended up at a place where I needed to be, not where I wanted to
Yeah.
be initially, but I also wanted to be here. But yeah.
So something you mentioned obviously about him winning the championship with Michigan just before he came. Was there ever any interactions between you and him? Obviously the Ohio State Michigan thing. Did you ever get? Was there ever any interaction
we,
in
we,
terms of that?
we actually did. He spoke about it like a couple of times. I told him that I don't have any bad blood if he doesn't have any bad blood. Um, but no, he's a really stand-up guy and always had like good things to say about me. And when I made plays, he was always one of the first guys. Good job, Praise. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, great guy.
This interview will go out post the game, but this weekend it's the game this weekend, so we'll be interested to see how that game plays out against Ohio State and Michigan this Saturday.
Oh
If
yeah.
you'll be listening to this, the game will already happened because you kind of made a bit of a boo-boo there, but anyway. One other person I want to ask you about the Chargers before we move on is, and he is my favourite NFL quarterback, Gavin will know that I don't stop waxing lyrical about Justin Herbert. Did you get being on the practice squad and kind of probably being the scout team for the offense or for the defense? Did you have much interaction with Justin? Or you doing much route running and passing with Justin at all?
Uh, yeah. So a few times I caught some passes from him. He had a cannon of an arm. Like the first time I caught a pass with him, is like the ball snuck up on me because how fast it came out. But he was always a really nice guy. And once I got to Panthers, I got to like chop up with him again because we played the Chargers. I think week 2. We played the Chargers, so it was great seeing him and seeing some of the other players and other coaches and staff and the team.
Yeah.
But I've got nothing like they were great guys, and Justin's a fun. You see how he's been playing. He's that guy's a stud.
I've never seen a quarterback throw a perfect spiral at Justin Herbert. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Fast forward a bit, we get to, you probably know this date yourself, 12th of August 2024. The Chargers make the decision to waive you from the squad. Is that something, as a player, you're aware might be happening, or is it kind of a bit of a shock when it happens? What was the kind of process to lead you to that?
It was a bit of a shock. Yeah, that's just, it was a bit of a shock. I didn't. Nobody expects to be cut. So, but whilst it was happening, so before I got a tap on the shoulder, and they basically said, "Hey, GM wants to see you." The moment I heard that, I knew that okay, this is not going to be good. And it was what it was. I wasn't upset. I wasn't. It just was what it was. So
Yeah.
definitely disappointed, but such is life, right? Just have to keep on moving.
So over the next kind of 4 weeks, then, like, kind of, what was your kind of thought process in terms of, obviously you're over in the States, your chance of the Chargers is past. Like, obviously you're not giving up on your dream, but what do the next 4 weeks look like for you?
Yeah. So right after I got cut by the Chargers, I go to Indianapolis to stay with my girlfriend's family. Um, and basically I just hang out there, and I go to my girlfriend's dad office, just hang out with him every day. Sort of he runs a business, so I'd sit in meetings, cut about. And my plan was okay, in 4 weeks time, if I don't get a call from another team, then I'm gonna go back to Vancouver and buy a business with my best friend up there, and that was the plan. So I ended up being 3 or 4 days away from driving to Vancouver, driving across the country, and going there. So yeah, it was an interesting time to say the least.
So 2nd of September 2024, so just kind of shy of about 3 weeks later, Panthers come calling.
Mm-hmm.
How did that, was it just a phone call or a message out of the blue again, very similar, or was it something you kind of hinted it was coming?
So I had no idea what was coming. That day, I'd actually just bought a bunch of like work clothes that I was going to use when I was in Vancouver. And then I was at a car dealership with my girlfriend's dad. We were just looking at cars. And in the middle of like talking about the car and looking at paperwork and stuff like that, I get a call from a random number. Pick up the call, and there's a scout from this the scout that I spoke to in January, February from the combine. He called me and said, "Hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you. Um, like, what are you up to?" And I told him, "Yeah, I'm in a few days. I'm going to Vancouver, blah blah blah." And he said, "Well, stop the thing. You're coming to to Carolina." And I just told my girlfriend's dad, I was like, I muted. I was like, "Yo, this is the Panthers." And then spoke to him again, and like 2 days later, I was in Carolina. But it was the craziest thing. Yeah, it was nuts.
Excellent. And also, how did that you kind of feel? You get re-energized, thinking, here we go again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it was insane. It was like I don't even know how. It's like winning the lottery again. It was nuts. And looking, I went to the team that I was supposed to go to. Which is probably the best part, because in the NFL, how do I put this? Making it to the NFL is one thing, but making to the NFL and being in the right organization is a whole other thing. You can be an NFL player, but not be where you need to be and not be given opportunity. But being in a place where you're now given the opportunity and people trust you and people like you there, that's a whole different feeling that just makes sense.
Yeah. So that's a good point. You actually make it something like there's players within the NFL that are now very established players that very much that is the situation, and you can tell that. And I think a classic
Mhm.
example of that is you actually come up against him this weekend. That's quite important. Is Baker Mayfield. I watch. Think
Mhm.
he's a quarterback who is very very good, but he's just never found the right home. He's never found the right team for him. And now as the
Yeah,
Bucks, and that's very much exactly what you're describing there. You can get in the
yeah,
NFL, but unless you find an organisation that works for you and will support you, then you potentially won't be successful and progress. And that's exactly a good
yeah.
example of what you say, isn't it?
1,000. There's so many guys that are on both ends that are in the right place, and you can see that in how they play. And there's so many guys who are in the NFL, but they're not in the right place, and it just doesn't work out as well as it should. It's like they're grinding their gears to stay in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please do. I think, Praise, maybe now would be a good time just, I guess, to explain your perspective in terms of your role being on the practice squad. So what does that look like for you in terms of, obviously you mentioned like doing scout teamwork. Um,
Yeah.
what does your kind of contribution look like?
So effectively, my job is to play the is to play as the offense of the opposing team. So my job is to to be a receiver against our defense, and I'm supposed to. So this week, this is a perfect example. This week, well, this last week, I was Xavier Worthy from the Chiefs. So fast guy, does a lot of motions, that has a lot of down the field routes, and that's what I had to do. I had a bunch of different motions and down the field routes and jet sweeps and all that kind of stuff. So that is my job, to give our offense a look for what they could expect for that week. Yeah.
And you kind of actually hinted towards one of the questions I was going to ask, which is bearing in mind that sort of scout type team role, if you have a particular comp at receiver, because I'm thinking that, looking at the schedule, you had obviously mentioned Xavier Worthy. Do you do a good Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase?
I wasn't Neighbors and I wasn't Chase. Another guy I remember being was from the Chargers, actually, Quentin Johnson.
Yep.
I remember playing him. Trying to think who else I've been. Usually I'm a receiver from another team. That's usually my role. And yeah.
So in terms of that, then, please, obviously, do you need to do a game film study of these these wide receivers that you basically so like it's kind of acting, isn't it? That you're going to be
Yeah.
well they could you then a
Yeah.
game from the team to get this is what we need you to do, this is what the plays that we're going to run. How does that process work in the lead up to practicing for a game?
So in the lead up, so we have cut-ups of clips of the plays that we're gonna run. So that day, the cut-ups will come out, and I'll just watch them all 2, 3 times to say, like for Xavier, he had a motion, and I watched that maybe like 6, 7 times to make sure that I ran it properly and my footwork was right and I took the right angles, blah blah blah. So every day I'll watch the cut-ups of the receiver I'm gonna be. And on the day when we go on the practice field, we have cards. So they'll show us a card in the huddle, say, Praise, you're this guy, you're gonna do this. Everybody else has their roles, and we run the play, and then we do it over and over and over again. And it's pretty quick. It's like the speed of a normal huddle. Show the card, know who you are, get lined up, and go.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure why they picked you to be Xavier. Well, there though, I can't quite make the connection.
I don't know.
So that's great. That kind of talks about what the week looks like for you in terms of what your role is in terms of getting the team ready for game day. In terms of the weekend itself, I mean, obviously the goal is ideally you want to get activated and be part of the game day squad. But to this point, what have you been doing when Sunday comes around? What does game day look like for you as part of the team?
Yeah, so I'll go. So the night before, if we have a home game, I'll go to the team hotel and I'll sit in all the meetings, and then after the meetings, I'll stay around to like go over the game plan, even though I know I'm not going to be on, just to go over the game plan, know that if they needed me, I could be the X receiver, the Z receiver, and I sit there and just hear some of the plays that we're going to run during the game again. And then I go home, and then on game day, I'll come back to the facility. I'll work out a little bit, and I'll be on the sideline and just like cheering them on and making sure that I can do what I can do to give the team energy and yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting just to get that perspective, and I guess it speaks to everything you've done so far in terms of that mindset of always being ready, because you never know what's going to happen and when that opportunity might arise. And certainly, hopefully, we're going to see you take the field over the coming weeks of the season. I guess one of the questions I just want to ask about in terms of the being with the Panthers is, I guess that support network around you. You've obviously talked about that being really important when you were in your college career in particular, but now moving into the world of the NFL, who do you kind of lean on, or the people that you aspire to role model from from the receiver room, from the quarterback group? Where do you kind of get that support from now?
Yeah. So twofold. It's definitely the players. So we've got Adam Thielen, who's a seasoned vet in the NFL, and he's been great in sort of helping me perfect my craft. Some days we'll stay after practice, and he will help me run a certain route this way. I had an out route that I was struggling to do. It changed every time, and I worked with him over like 2 days trying to perfect the route, and maybe 2, 3 weeks later, I had that route in the game plan. Like when I was a scout team, and it worked to perfection. I got the ball and it was gravy. So Adams helped me a lot, and even my wide receiver coach, Coach Moore, he's been fantastic. He's got a lot of patience with me. He works with me before practice, doing drills and talking me through things. He's been great. I just honestly, just all the other like staff out there, they're great. They've been great. I feel in my soul that this was the place I was supposed to be. Yeah.
So I think the only other thing I just wanted to say is maybe just in terms of the quarterbacks. I guess you've got two individuals in that quarterback room at the Panthers at very different stages of their career. So obviously you've got Bryce Young, number one overall draft pick, and still very early on in his career. at the other end of the scale, we got Andy Dalton, seasoned veteran. So, I guess what influence have they had, and do they bring sort of different perspectives given where they are?
Yeah. So Andy and I have a really good relationship. I speak to Andy. I speak to both. I have good relationships with both of them, but Andy and I have a really good relationship because he throws me the ball more in practice. He'll be our scout team quarterback, and there'll be times where he'll tell me in the huddle, "Hey, Praise, like watch out. This is coming for you. This is coming to you," or he'll tell me, like for example, I had a route, it was a curl, 14 yards, and come back down my stem. In the huddle, he said, "Run it this way. I'm gonna find you." And I trusted him. I ran out exactly how I thought he asked me to run it, and boom, the ball found me right in my chest, and it was a great completion. So yeah, and Andy's been great, and Bryce has been great as well. His vision is outside the pocket, second to none. He'll throw some balls that you don't expect are coming, and boom, they're right there. So yeah, I've got great relationships with the both of them.
So just I was mentioning we talked about Justin Herbert earlier on as well, Praise, and obviously you've got Bryce and you've got Andy Dalton. You've actually got three completely different quarterbacks that you've now kind of played with. When you were at the Chargers, who was your other quarterback with you at the time? Who was your
Easton Stick.
Yeah, so you basically had four different type of quarterbacks, and you obviously got Bryce Young as a kind of new modern day quarterback that can do a bit of everything. Andy Dalton, like Gav said, the seasoned veteran. Justin Herbert we've mentioned as well. So for you as a wide receiver, you're learning a lot from playing with these different type of quarterbacks.
Yeah, for sure. Like some quarterbacks will just pin the ball to you. Some will throw the ball a certain way to like throw you open. And yeah, it's been good that I've seen different types of quarterbacks and felt different types of footballs. Like a ball might be like a tight spiral that you have to really focus on getting in front of. A ball might loft a little bit more, so you have to. They're just different ways. So it's good that I've seen and caught different types of balls from different types of QBs. So that's helped my game a lot. So I'm not afraid of I see the ball coming and I don't know how I adjust my body and this and that.
So this next question, you don't have to be thinking you can't answer this question the way you want to answer. Like, how is your development actually going? Like, you're at the Panthers. We've been there for a good time there now. We've seen you progress and you've told us the stories. Like, now, where do you feel you are now at in terms of your development towards maybe one day being elevated to the squad? Where are you kind of feeling you're at the moment?
Honestly, I think that I'm at the point where if I get the game plan down and if I show the staff that they can trust me completely with the game plan and I know exactly where I'm supposed to be, then I think physically I'm getting close to being the type of receiver they need to get on the field. It's just adjusting and getting down the game plan because there's still a lot of football that I don't know or I'm not completely comfortable with just because of the time. I really began learning NFL football this January. So once I really get the scheme down, get the playbook down, I think I've seen them trust me more and more, like put me in with some different things. So as long as I get the game plan down and I show that I'm ready, then I'm in line for that opportunity to get on the field.
Can you feel, obviously you mentioned that they're putting you into different scenarios now, can you feel that yourself like they're putting you into more complex scenarios so it shows you that they're starting to trust you a bit more? Can you kind of get that feeling from them?
For sure. Like when I first got there, if there was like an emotion, all right, we'll give it to the next guy because we don't want Praise to screw up the motion. But now I'm doing a bunch of motions and blocks and this and that. So I can tell that they're trusting me more and more and giving me more complex things to do week by week.
So I've got to ask you, Praise, is it someone that's been in had the rugby background? Have you ever tried to persuade anyone to get a few more laterals into the game?
I did actually speak to someone about that. Like, hey, yo, just pitch the ball to me and I'll go. And yeah. And I've joked about that before.
Yeah. You can introduce it with your own version of the push tush as well. A bit of a
Oh yeah. Well, I was never really in the scrum though. I was a winger, so after the scrum, the ball gets to me, and I just fly down the field.
Perfect. One other question I want to kind of ask you just about your time at the Panthers. We've obviously been speaking to you for a couple of weeks now. How was the trip to Germany with the team?
It was amazing. It was such a good trip. Firstly, that we took the dub, which was always nice. Took the win in front of the German crowd. The crowd was crazy. Got to meet the commissioner, but also my parents got to be at the game, which is great for me. This was their first ever NFL game, and they loved it, and it was just a good experience all around. Like I it couldn't have been any better, honestly.
Yeah. Going back to Gavin mentioned earlier on about the Scottish Claymores and stuff like that, I mean, the German crowds back then were crazy for the sport, and they still are with the ELF now and stuff like that. So it was a no-brainer that the NFL got to that point. We need to bring you on board with our campaign, Praise. Now, we need to get an NFL game in Scotland. We need to get yourself and David and...
I know. Where would we play? Would we play at Hampden?
No,
where would we
it
play?
have to be Murrayfield. Hampden's a horrible stadium. It'd have to be Murrayfield.
Yeah, Murrayfield. Yeah, it have to be Murrayfield.
So
yeah.
We need you to start. We need you to start drawing interest. We need you to get David on board, and Jamie and Graham, and get all the Scottish.
This
campaign.
I'll speak to the commissioner. I was like, hey, that'd be sick. That'd be sick.
Roger just said, I'm speaking to two guys from Scotland. They want a game over there. Sarah, our hostess, says if Taylor Swift can play at Murrayfield, so can the NFL.
Hey, that's very true. That's very true.
Excellent. That's good to hear the Panthers praising. There's a few more questions to ask at different aspects of the game, but in terms of where you're at with the Panthers, we are really looking forward to following your progress with the Panthers. We're hoping as the season comes to a close, like you said, they start trusting you in more situations, and hopefully this season, before the season's out, we see you taking at least a snap on the field in the NFL before this season. So, Gav, you finish off the Panther section, Gav.
Yeah, I think I kind of alluded to this, maybe speaking about the Chargers as well, but the Panthers feels to me like another team that's really on the up. And as much as, a lot of the time people will look at the standings and they'll say, you are what your record says. You actually look at what's happened in the last few weeks. You won back-to-back games against the Saints and the Giants in overtime. You took the Chiefs right down to the wire. Even though you're only one win ahead of the Giants, who are picking number one at the moment, pains me to say that, but it feels like this is a team that's on the up. There's real momentum about the team. Yeah. Are you feeling that in the locker room and on the practice fields?
1,000%. 1,000%. So the week we beat the Saints, I think it was the Saints before the.
Yep.
Yeah. I could tell immediately, like that week, I knew we were gonna win because the way we were training, everything was clicking. Everyone was having a lot of fun. Everyone just flying down the field, making plays. It was great. Same thing with Germany. I knew that we were gonna win in Germany, and also with the Chiefs. I told people like, yo, we could really win this game. Obviously, things didn't work out how we wanted them to, and we've got a few unfortunate calls and penalties and this and that, but it was really our game to lose, and that's how it felt the whole game. Like they scored first, which is what it is, but we just kept on coming back, and one thing could have changed the whole momentum of the game or the outcome of the game. So we're definitely building a lot of good momentum, and this team is going to be exciting to watch, and it's going to be good.
Sorry, I'm going to contradict myself and something I've just thought of. I want to talk about Panthers. See, on game day, Praise, after the game, are you in the locker room or anything like that, or is it kind of separate? You get in the locker room pre-game and post?
Yeah, I'm in a locker room. Yeah.
Obviously, what happens in locker rooms in the NFL stays in locker rooms, but we've seen reports come out this week about Bryce Young giving a post-game speech after the game this week that seems to have had a massive impact on the players. What can you tell us? I don't want you to go into any depth you can't tell us, but what was in the locker room after he gave that speech? What can you tell us about that?
So after the game, we all knew that we beat ourselves. And not that we beat ourselves, is that we played such a good game that it was honest. It was unfortunate we lost the way we lost to the kick, in the last like 10 seconds, whatever. Um, but when Bryce was speaking, we sort of all felt that energy that hey, we belong in the league. We belong here. We're making plays. We're doing the right things, and yeah, it was a fantastic speech. A rally. It was like rallying the troops. It felt like Braveheart, honestly. Like everyone it was great. It was good. So um, I think we will carry this momentum on throughout the season, and this Panthers team is gonna be one that people will talk about,
Perfect.
of changing the franchise and the direction of the
What you
franchise.
do, Praise, now you need to somehow hack into the pre-game screens and get a Braveheart on the before you get a divisional game this week. You know what I mean, so it's a
Yeah.
divisional game. You need to speak to the coaches, speak to whoever's in video of Charlie Video, get a
Hmm.
Braveheart speech up on the screen, and
For
that
sure.
if
We we
that
we
doesn't rally
we
well.
yeah. Yesterday, when we were lifting, somebody put on like bagpipes. So for like 5 minutes, we were just all lifting weights to bagpipes. So that was funny.
Brilliant. Yeah. If Braveheart can't inspire you to beat your big rivals, then nothing will. So
Yeah.
I just want to put it out there that we're claiming credit if that happens and you win. That was us. So it was all on us.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Excellent. One thing I want to come back to, Braze, is we spoke about the class of 2024 and the player pathway programme. So just what I get, obviously we've spoke to you, Kieran Messi, you're still in contact with a couple of your teammates. So just want to get a wee update from you in terms of where you think some of your teammates are in the league at the moment. So obviously what we speak about,
Mhm.
we've got Lowry Sam at first of all. How is he getting on at the moment with the Jam?
Yeah, he's balling. He's balling over there, and he's having a great time. I think it's just a matter of time until we see him on the field. So yeah, he's doing really well.
Another one it's up in that he's obviously getting to the winter time. He'll be feeling the cold weather. There's Travis Clayton up in Buffalo. How's he getting on?
Yeah, yeah. So obviously Travis got hurt,
Yeah,
but he's making his way back. But he's gonna be good. He's gonna be really good. Travis is a freak athlete for being so big. He can move so well and he's so strong. It's just a matter of time. Once he gets healthy, gets through like a training camp. I think he's out. I think he's out for the season. But
yeah,
once he gets healthy, he's gonna we will see Travis on the field for sure.
excellent. And something Gavin mentioned earlier, obviously your class was up a few Irish players in there. And over the last year or so, we've seen the Gaelic footballers really starting to make inroads in the NFL, especially at the kicker position. We've obviously got Dan Whelan's over punting for the Packers. He's doing a great job over there. Someone that was in your IPP is Charlie Smythe. Obviously, he's on the Saints roster. Are you still in much contact with Charlie at all? How's he getting on?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when we played them, I just saw him, took a picture with him. He's that's a guy that once his name is called, he's not leaving the league because he's a fantastic kicker. In practice, I think he said he made like a 63 or 65 yard kick. Like once he gets his opportunity, he's gonna hold on to that, and he's been in the league for a long time
Excellent. Hopefully that'll be one of many of you that we start to see it making a massive impact in the league because um,
for sure.
the International Pathway Programme, it needs people like you guys make to league for other people to want to do it and be the inspiration. So even just getting to the NFL will inspire a lot of people to try and make that jump to take the risk, like you say,
For
and
sure.
push themselves towards that. So just to wrap it up,
For
and
sure.
Praise, what's next for you? We're now at the start of December. Obviously, I've only a few weeks left. A few weeks left of the season. A good few weeks left of the season. What's next for you? What do you see the next couple of weeks going like for you?
Um, really, my goal is just to just be consistent, and hopefully by the end of the year get on the field. That's always the goal. That's what and to win. Like the win is always first, but personally, I do want to play and just be a better player, be what the team needs me to be. stick around. I want to be a Panther. I want to be here for a long time. So yeah, just sticking around is what I want to do.
And I think one question I'd want to ask Praise is not even just for fellow Scots back home that are serious about getting into the game, but actually acknowledging the your Nigerian roots and the African connections. There's a lot of talented players who are not just coming through but already in the league. Certainly as a Giants fan, I think of Kayvon Thibodeau has been an example of that. We've got David Ohebo with the Scottish-Nigerian connection as well. What advice would you give to people who are serious about taking their game to the next level, coming from other parts of the world?
I think that you have to put yourself out there. It's hard, and I definitely got super lucky to even get in the door. I can't negate that, but you have to put yourself out there. You have to shamelessly reach out to who you can reach out to. I remember messaging the director of the NFL UK on LinkedIn like twice, and he never responded. And I ended up seeing him once I actually made it to the league. But you shamelessly have to just reach out to whoever you can, as much as you can. Reach out to players, reach out to whoever you can, and show and prove to them first that like you're serious about it by your work ethic and what you can do, and hopefully, like, it's never guaranteed, but hopefully you get a shot. If somebody cracks open the door for you, you have to tear that door down and break the door and throw away the door and pave your own way. And not everyone's path to the league is the same. Some people find a back door in. Some people go the college route. Some people are banging on the stadium door and then get a tryout and then make. So there's so many ways to get in the league. You just have to pick a path, have faith, and not take no as an answer, basically.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks for that, Praise. Gav, thanks for joining me today alongside Praise for this chat.
Thanks very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, Praise. Great to have you on. Hopefully, we've heard your story up to this point, but I'm sure there's a few more chapters still to be written.
For sure, definitely. And I appreciate you guys having me. This was fantastic. I had a great time.
Yeah, Praise, thanks very much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you and letting us share your story. That's what we're all about, is just sharing stories like this story of yours today could easily inspire a 15-year-old in Scotland that's wanting to get to that.
Sure.
And that's what we want to do. We want to just improve people's opportunities and promote the game throughout the UK and worldwide. So very much appreciate that you made the time to chat to us today. We will continue to follow your progress over the next however many years, and hopefully we can get you back on soon for an update on what's happening.
Yeah, for sure, 1000%. And I should be back in Scotland sometime in the off season, so I'll definitely let you guys know and can link up and get some food or whatever.
Oh, that'd be amazing. It'd be good to catch up
awesome.
and person chat with you. That sounds perfect.
For sure.
For everyone that's watching and listening, we've got many more conversations with people from the world of American football lined up. So keep an eye on our Instagram at Tartan Touchdown for updates on what's next. Until then, it's goodbye for now.